Hey everyone, this is Steve from Steve 87th Puget Sound Pacific PSAP Railroad. So today we're going to be doing a little bit of an experiment. This is the first time I'm going to use a camera on the tripod. So we are going to take this 0.25 inch music wire and attach it to this nice little fence. Because if you look and see, the fence that they gave us, right, that's not quite deep enough to actually stick into the scenery. So we're going to have to do something to make sure that we can stick it into the scenery, and hopefully we can do that tonight. So, as I said, this is an experiment. We're going to see how this all works. So first things we're going to do, take this off its spar. And I think I'm actually just going to cut it right down to the 4x4. It will make sense. I previously painted these the other day when it was really nice. Today it's been raining all day long. And this is actually going to be the accent fence for the materials supply yard. So, there we go. Get those out of the way. Keep my spur. Now, the next thing that was really fun was getting a drill bit that was the size of the wire. This is a 0.25 millimeter, a 25 thousandths drill bit, which it took me a little while to figure out how to get it into the drill until I understood that I could actually reverse the chucks that are in there, which has a smaller chuck in it. So, as a minimum, I'm thinking we need to drill at least 2, 3, about every other one. And you can see here that this does not have a post at the end, so we're going to have to find something to drill that post. So the first thing I want to do, however, is let's go ahead and sand these nice and flat. Should take about a minute. Now, the big thing is, one, I want to be able to make this scenery removable. By making it removable, I can do things with it. I can put things in there. I can put posters on this and so forth. Because it is a fence that is actually going to be, it's partially a security fence, but it's also at the end of a road. And as most businesses, they would probably want to put some advertising on it. So once we get those nice and straight, we're going to see if we can get this in. So the bad part is it looks like the 0.25 wire might actually be too big. As we try to drill this in, there's not a lot of extra room to go with. Now there's no way to do this but to hand drill. If you try to do this any other way, it's never going to work. So we're putting a lot of pressure on this to try to get this in. So I think we are going to come up with a different way to do this. And I've seen this before in some other places. What might be good and what might seal it, because both the wire and the 4x4 are so small together, I mean they almost fit, that I think if we heat this up a little bit with a heat gun, we'll be able to push those right on in, and they'll be sealed in. So let's go ahead and set that up and try that. Okay, while I was out looking for a heat gun, I found some evergreen 3x3 quarter scale strips, which is 1.1 by 1.1 millimeter, which is actually about the exact same size as these posts that we were having in. So the first thing I have to do is be able to put this post in. So as you can see, the post is just a little bit higher than the other side. So by it being a little bit higher, we just have to take that little bit of a nub off so we can go. Now the good thing about putting in a new post is I'm going to be able to utilize the post itself, cut it at an angle, and use it as an anchor point. Still working on the other ones, so the good thing is I have a nice sharp knife. Go ahead and get in there trying not to break the 1x6s that are already there. Okay, work that off. Always, always try not to get it towards you if you can help it. Might have been better with a paddle blade on this. It is very, very small, the parts that we're working with here. And yes, this is an HO scale. So we did have a little bit of a crack on the fence. The good thing is it's a fence, and if anybody's actually seen fences before, none of them are perfect. They all have cracks in them. They're all broken at different spots. That's part of what makes it a fence, right? Especially a wooden one. This happens to be from Tichy Trains. I was able to pick up a bunch of packages of these. Because I knew that I wanted this for the alleyway on the layout. So I'm experimenting with this piece because the alleyway has several pieces that have to be done this way. So as soon as we figure out how to do this, then we can tackle the alleyway. Okay, so that looks like it's nice and clear. Can come up, put our 2x3 post, which seems to be much bigger than what's advertised. Even though it looks the same with here, the way that it's molded in, it's actually a little bit bigger. So I don't think we're going to worry about that too much right now. We'll just go ahead and get those sanded in. Try to get this flush here. Actually, I'm going to come in with a file. Sometimes you just got to get the right tools in there. Once you find the right tool, that's the best thing to use. Okay. So that looks like it's going to be about right there. Come in with our faller glue. I actually have just started using this. They have two types. It seems to do pretty well. This is the expert glue. They also have a super expert glue, which flows a lot more. It's a lot wetter. You just have to remember to keep it closed up and tightened. So get that on there like that. And while that's in place, just make this into a nice sharp little point. And that'll give us a way to put it in to the ground so they can hold up, right? So the bad thing is I spray painted this fence, so I'm going to have to mix up some paint to paint my other section here. A little bit sharper. Whoops. Might have taken that right on off. Yeah, it's not too bad. Just needs a little shaping. Actually, back to the right tool. And there we go. That'll be a nice, just shove it right on in once that dries off, and that'll anchor that fence down. And then we've got the two posts. Now we get to try my other thing, which I've tried to experiment with, and so far I've been unsuccessful because I don't think my heat source is hot enough. So I'm going to go try and get another heat source that should heat up the wire very quickly so that I can rapidly transfer it to the end. All right, so let's hold on to that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so we're back. Problem was the heat gun that I have, which is a craft heat gun from my wife because our other one is packed away for her weekend, wasn't quite hot enough to heat up the metal. All right, it was either not hot enough or it was going to, the metal cooled off too quickly by the time I got it to the plastic. So we're going to go to number 2, right? When you can't do it one way, try it another way. So first we're going to experiment on this piece of spur that's right down here. By doing this, we'll be able to see if I'm going to be able to penetrate the way that I want to into this with the temperature that I have. So let's make an experiment. If this doesn't work, I'm not exactly sure what we're going to do next, okay? So let's just try this. Good thing is I don't have any barbecues going on in the next couple of weeks, so if this runs out of lighter fluid, oh well, I can always go get another one. Okay, that should be hot enough to go into the plastic. Make sure that your hand is way far away from the end. Take this off, come over here, and pierce the plastic. And that seemed to have worked. Okay. Now, yes, it's going to take a little bit to wiggle it out, but that's not where I wanted it to stay anyway. So we're going to move over to this and make sure that we can go and do this. So now what I'm going to do for safety, because this is piano wire and it's metal, it will actually transfer the heat that's from the tip up the wire. So if I put my hand, if I keep making the smaller ones, I either have to use needle nose pliers to try to hold this close to the flame and then push it in as the same way, or if I hold it back far enough, the heat won't transfer into it. So we're going to do it that way. All right, so let's go ahead and do the very first hole, which is going to be this one that's closest to me here. Okay. Still got to be kind of quick about this. I also have my cutting pliers handy because I don't need the whole length of this, obviously. So we're going to see what we can do here. So heat this up. Oh, wow. That time it's actually red. Okay, so that's more than hot enough. Get this out of the way. Bring it on in to the top of the plastic, which is a lot easier said than done. Nope, we didn't get it. So one of my problems was I had to put too much things down because other things were in the way. Let's try it one more time. If you guys think this is easy, it really isn't. We have a small area that we have to get into. We have to do it quickly, and it has to be fairly accurate too to get it in there. Okay. The other good thing is my mat here is glass, so I'm not too worried about the hot tip that goes down over here. So we get this steady in the hands a little bit more. Try to drive this down. I'm slowly driving it down. Let's see how that does. Nope, still not quite what I want. Okay, we're going to try this one more time at just a slightly different angle. Part of my problem is that this is not quite flat and square. The other thing is I might want to try to set a little dimple into the first post. See if I can do that, make that any better. So if I can just start a hole someplace to drive it into, that might help a lot. So we've got our drill bit in. I know, trying to keep my hands out of the way. Again, like I said, this is a new first for me. Okay. So that puts a little divot in there. Let's go along and try to do it on the other ones. So, pressure. And you guys can see how flexible this fence actually is. So the nice thing about it is that it's a because it's flexible, it can be used in a lot of different places. Which is why I chose this particular fence. Now this is only one of the types of fences that's going in the material yard. The next type of fence that I'll be doing is actually the Walters fencing. We're going to use that to do the rest of it, because obviously it's a business and they don't want people coming up and stealing things out of the yard. Okay, so I know you can barely see that. I can barely see it, but there is a little dimple down there. We're going to try this one more time and see how this works. The problem is getting this hot enough, holding the plastic steady enough, and holding this steady enough to get everything to go right. My good thing is by heating this up to a very high temperature, when I can just see it getting red, that means that it'll stay a little bit longer. So the tip is just getting red. We're going to bring that out just a little bit more from the tip. I guess another way to do this, you could probably use a soldering iron. Okay. Again, 1, 2. It's not perfect. Kind of glued a little bit to the side, but that actually worked. It is holding itself up right there, which is good. Okay, so now we'll come in here with our cutting dikes. See if these will work. These are very, very tiny cutting dikes. They're not going to work. But luckily, I have more sets of cutting dikes. It makes it a lot easier. I thought the smaller ones might work, but apparently not. Again, this is guitar wire. I mean, this is piano wire. So it's pretty strong. And there we go. It's all set in there. And put some bushes around the end of that. Nobody's going to see it. Okay, so let's try the other couple of them. And then we'll go try to put this into the ground. All right. And heat it up. You can see it's a very, very fast thing that you have to do. But the drilling was just too hard to try to get this into the drill. So with the metal and the heat, it might just work to everybody's advantage, especially mine. Because in the future I've got a lot of these fences to put in, and gluing them to the scenery, they're not going to stand up very well. Okay, let's try this one. Put it right into this spot here. Again, it's just getting it into the right spot while it's still at temperature, and we missed the temperature. That's the bad thing. This cools off very, very quickly. So you don't have much time to do this. And sometimes by the fence not being straight up and down, it makes it hard to put it in straight up and down. All right, let's go ahead and do this again. So the closer and the faster I can do this, the better I can get it into the actual plastic, I think. So one of the reasons I'm doing this, I'm showing you guys how to do this as a technique to get in these really, really thin. So understand that this is, like I said, this is a 1x3 that are basically here at scale. I think that's a 0.12 by 0.12. My drill bit was actually a 0.25 drill bit that was going in, and you saw that that's the size that the piano wire was as well. Okay, that looks like it took a bite. The biggest thing is not being able to get close to it and hold the bottom of it to guide it in. So, I'll cut this one. I really need some better cutting dikes. Okay. And now I've just got one more to do, which is here, and then we'll try to put this in on the set, on the layout. Okay, so let's do this. Let's try to do this one more time. Maybe this time we'll try it with the pliers in place and see if we can get a steadier hold on it so that we can get it in a lot faster. Okay, so let's just try this one more time. And yes, I'm using insulated pliers so that when those heat up, it's not going to hurt me either. And again, distance and insulation is your best friend. You don't want to be by this when it's hot. You can see that it melts plastic. Even though plastic melts at about 100 degrees or so, it will burn you at that temperature. So just remember that. So get a nice temperature going there. See if we can get this red hot like the other ones. Now, one of the problems to have here, I know this is kind of a sciencey class, but this is a big piece of metal. It's got to be warmed up because the heat is being transferred into it from this little piece of wire, which takes more heat to heat the little wire up, even though it's just a little wire. I can't even get it to go red this time. Come on, just a little bit more. All right, that should be enough heat. We're gonna go ahead and try this. I see where my hole's at. I got my heat going. I got my gun. Boom, let's try it quickly. Okay. That seems to have, that didn't penetrate at all. So again, the problem is with this being so big, it's taking off a lot of the heat. So we're going to try it one more time with the good old hand. We'll see what we can do. I guess the other way to do this is if I used gloves so I could actually get a little bit closer. Using gloves also loses your dexterity. See how quickly it went right to red, as quick as that. That's what we mean by a heat sink. That thing was just taking all of the heat for itself and wasn't allowing the wire to heat up. I don't know if you guys can see the red, but it is glowing red right now. So we're ready to go in. Hold this, get that right on in there, and set it down, dip up a little. Okay, and boom, that one's in too. Okay, so come up, cut that, and there we go. So that's what we got there. So let's move over to the layout and let's try to put these in. Okay, so this is the spot in the layout where the fence is going to go. It's going to go between this building and the end, and then we'll put a big tree here or something like that so nobody can get in. As you can see, I matched the fence to the building that's coming up, and you can also see the building there where the train yard's going to be. So one of the nice things about doing the foam scenery is that it's fairly easy to use an awl to come in, poke a hole where you want it, and stick everything in. Now, for the wires, I'm not so worried about sticking in a hole because I think they're going to go in by themselves. However, this big block here, even though it's got the point on it, you can see. Okay, it's got the point on it that you can see here. It's still a little bit big to go into what the crevice is. So we're going to put that one in first, drive everything in, and then the good thing is I can take it back out and paint that. Okay, so we'll give that enough room, say about there. That looks good. Okay, take the awl, get a nice little starter hole going. We'll push that in there. Let's see if we can get this. So we get one. Get that started. That one in. Oops, we lost the center one there. Can move the building over just a little bit to get the fence in there. Bam, bam, and then whoops, that didn't quite go the way I wanted it to. Okay, well, see we have something to fix there. Got to push this post down a little bit more. We'll glue that back up. But there we have it. Fence right in place where we want it to be. It's going to be off of this intersection here, so that's a good place to put a fence. Then we can always come in. Whoops, sorry about that. We can always come in, put some bushes in on the sides so that nobody can get in on that side of the fence, or a tree. I had a bush laying around here. And then once that's done, that will block off this whole section over here, rather than trying to cut in a fence post into there. That's just not going to work. Okay, so I hope that all works. Show you guys how it's going to do. Now my next part that I have to do for the fences is all the way along this alleyway. That whole alleyway is going to have the same type of fence. And you can see over here that there's a turn on the road right there, which will make it nice because that fence will bend. I've got to learn how to do that technique a little bit better with putting in the fences. As soon as that happens, I'll be able to do that. But this was a good test, a good try, and in a nice little area. And I think it came out pretty good. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. And please leave me some comments on what you thought, how this went, what it looked like, if there's anything that I could do to make this a little bit better. This was my first time using the tripod and trying to do an explanation video. So just tell me what was good, tell me what was bad. I'm okay. That's what criticism, I mean, I don't take it as criticism, I take it as learning. Okay? So you guys have a nice day and keep on model railroading. Thanks.